Welcome back to our study on the book of Genesis. We are in chapter 3 this time, and as we look at the structure of the book of Genesis as the chapters, we can see that chapters 1 and 2 were all about life. Chapters 3 and 4 are going to be the reverse of that. They're going to be all about death. So just kind of keep that structure in mind. We've talked a lot about life, and now it's going to be a lot about non-life, the cessation of life, and specifically death. I thought this time I would kind of take you through chapter 3 a little bit, highlight just a couple of things. Of course, I encourage you to read chapter 3 before you get into the worksheet at all, and hopefully you're pausing as we go through the material to talk about some of the things that I'm presenting, and of course always double checking me to make sure that I'm not saying anything dumb, because that can certainly happen. So let's look at Genesis chapter 3. I'm reading from the ESV version. And it says, I won't go through every verse, every word, but I'm just going to kind of do some hits and highlights here a little bit. So it starts out and it says, "The serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made." That word crafty, it's a Hebrew word for being shrewd, crafty, sometimes sly. That's pretty much what it means. What does it mean that the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field? Well, that's a good question. But if nothing else, we're set up from this very first sentence that this particular creature, there's something unstable, uneven about this. So the first note that is played in the song of chapter 3 is a little bit in a minor key. It's a little dissonant, and we're kind of set on edge right from the beginning. And that's not an accident. This story begins in this way because, well, you and I know where it's headed. It's headed downhill. The serpent says to the woman, "Did God actually say..." And here, feel free, actually in the next 3-4 verses, to translate the Bible into Texan. "Did God actually say, 'Y'all shall not eat of any tree in the garden'?" People kind of laugh at me a little bit sometimes when I say that the Bible should be translated into Texan. And what I mean by that is, in standard English, if I say "you," I can be referring to a single person. If I say "you," I can be referring to a whole group of people. The word is the same, you and you. And in our Bibles, we can read "you" or "you," and we won't know if it's referring to one person or a whole group of people. But if you speak in Texan, you can say "you," "y'all," and "all y'all." And in the Hebrew, those three are actually part of the grammar. So in Hebrew/Texan, this does say, did God actually say, "Y'all shall not eat of any tree in the garden"? It is a plural. "And the woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that's in the midst of the garden. Neither shall you touch it, lest you die.'" People often wonder, well, where did she get that? Did Adam give that to her? Did he kind of give her the law and then a fence outside the law? Did they agree to do that? We don't really know. Verse 4, "Serpent said to the woman, 'You will not surely die.'" And we'll go through the serpent's conversation here in just a minute. "God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. You'll be like God, knowing good and evil." So the woman saw a tree was good for food, delight to the eyes. Tree was desired to make one wise. She took of its fruit and ate. gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Their eyes were opened, and tree of the knowledge of good and evil, their first insight, their first piece of wisdom was, oh wow, you're naked. Oh wow, so are you. I think maybe they knew that beforehand. I think there's something being implied here, you know? Wasn't that they were naked. It was, oh, that reality, now that I know evil and good, now I see how that reality can be both healthy and abused. So they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. They made themselves underwear, basically. Verse 8, they heard the sound of Yahweh God walking in the garden in the evening, in the cool of the day. The man and the wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh God among the trees. But Yahweh God called to the man and said, "Where are you?" So when mommy and daddy are playing hide and seek with the 2 or 3-year-old and we say, "Where are you?" we know exactly where they are. God isn't asking, "Where are you physically?" He's asking, "Where are you spiritually, emotionally, mentally?" Because you're not where you're supposed to be. You're not where you were. And the man said, "I heard the sound of you. I was afraid." Fear. Knowledge of good and evil produced what kind of wisdom? Fear. I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. Now, there's an interesting question here. Was he afraid because he was naked, or he was afraid, and then because he was naked, he hid himself? You can go either way on that one. God said, "Who told you that you were naked?" Of course, the answer is no one told them, right? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to? And here Adam, in classic sinful style, in classic inherited sinful style, says, "The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate." In other words, if Adam had a third arm, he would have found somebody else to point at and blame. And the first person he blames is God. The woman you gave me. So it's your fault that she's here, and it's her fault that she gave me the fruit. And then, I sort of accidentally ate. Really? Yahweh God said to the woman, "What have you done?" And the woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So she kind of points a finger as well, right? The serpent deceived me. So she points at the serpent. And so Yahweh God says to the serpent, I love this. He didn't say, "What have you done?" to the serpent. Right? Serpent's the end of the line. "Because you've done this, cursed are you above all livestock, all the beasts on the belly you should go, eat dust all the days of your life." We'll get to that in just a minute. I'll put enmity between you. Enmity is a word that means kind of like a continuing conflictual relationship. I'm going to put that kind of relationship between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. Offspring in the Hebrew is the word seed. So when the Hebrew Bible especially thinks about children, they use it in a kind of a thinking of plant life, biology, seeds and growth and that kind of thing. He shall bruise your head, you shall bruise his heel. Oh, gotta get my little cursor back where it's supposed to be. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Oh, well. Give me just a second here. Things just get all scary. There we go. Okay. To the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband. We'll get to that. That's a very significant statement. He shall rule over you. And it's significant in two ways, too. So one, you might think, well, I think I know what he's going to say about that. But another one you might be surprised about. To Adam, he says, because you've listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Is it because he listened to his wife? Or because he listened without discernment and without standing his ground about what's right and what's wrong? And because you've eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, don't. Cursed is the ground. Not cursed are you. Cursed is the ground. So your sin, your disobedience, impacts something else. Now note, if you go back up to the serpent's actions, cursed are you. So the serpent's actions fall upon the serpent, and the serpent eats dust because of the serpent's work, and the serpent has a conflictual relationship. The woman, your disobedience impacts you, your pain in childbirth, your pain in birth, and your relationship is now messed up with your husband. To Adam, he says, you've disobeyed, cursed is something else because of you. Cursed is the ground because of you. And the result of that is you're going to feel pain all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles, you shall eat the plants of the field. How's that different? Well, remember, he was eating the fruit of the trees. Now he eats the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. The man's called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. And Yahweh God made for Adam and for his wife garments of skins and clothed them. So kind of an interesting little thing there. It's interesting that God has the foresight to think, I think those fig leaves are going to wilt and wither pretty quick. And instead of you going and harvesting fig leaves every single day to make underwear, I have a better idea. Tell you what. The better idea is interesting, I think, because he doesn't manufacture cotton for clothing. Okay, cotton or hemp or whatever other kind of fabric that is natural in nature. He doesn't formulate that, fabricate that, weave it together, teach them how to weave it together. None of that. There's plenty of things in nature that you can wear. But God says, no, I'm going to give you clothing of skin. Now, clothing of skin, okay, where did God get that? Well, from an animal, right? Well, how did he get it from an animal? You know? Now, I suppose there might have been an animal in that world, the world before the flood, that naturally shed its skin and replaced it. We have lots of creatures that do that today. They're generally smaller creatures, but I don't know, maybe there was a really large dinosaur that shed its skin, and so there was plenty of skin to go around. It's possible, a little doubtful. The alternative, though, isn't really any more tasteful. Did God kill an animal and say to Adam and Eve, here's the roadkill, wear it? Now, I say that in a very harsh way, in a very blunt way, but I want us to kind of get a sense that from their point of view, it probably was roadkill. I mean, we look at roadkill, right? We're like, oh, yuck, right? They lived in a world without death. They'd never experienced a dead animal. And so to wear a dead animal, not just to see it, but to wear it, must have been, I mean, maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but I think it was pretty disgusting for them. Verse 22, Yahweh God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now lest he reach out his hand, take from the tree of life, and live forever. Yahweh God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to, and there's that word shamar, to keep the way to the tree of life, to guard the way to the tree of life. Now, from my point of view, and I understand there's different ways to look at this particular end section here. I like to look at this as grace, not as law. Pardon me. The reason is because God says, all right, here is a part of our creation, this man, this woman, this male, this female. They know good and evil now. They're not innocent anymore. And they have zero ability to really control what they know. They can't handle it. In other words, I didn't give it to them. I asked them not to take it. They took it. They can't handle it. It's going to destroy them. In case there's any doubt, just look around you. The knowledge of good and evil destroys us continually, every moment of every day, always. How would you like to live in that existence forever? Never die and continually be in sin. Death and destruction, decay, but you never die. You just experience death over and over and over. I think this is grace. God saying, no, I'm not going to let you live forever. I'm not going to let you experience this existence forever. I'm going to put an end to it. Of course, then I'm going to send my son, and he's going to put an end to the power of death. And then I'm going to raise all y'all. And those who have had faith are going to come to the new world, the new earth. And those who did not will go to everlasting punishment. So I think this is grace. All right, let's see here. We have time here on our worksheet for our first little section here. Punishment fits the crime. And all of chapter 3 and a little bit into chapter 4 here, what I'm going to do is show you the connections between chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4. And the connections are based upon statements, phrases that are said maybe in chapter 1 and then repeated in chapter 3, or said in chapter 3 and repeated in chapter 4. So they're all connected together, which makes chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 one big cohesive story, one tapestry that's really tied together. And we're supposed to recognize that it's tied together. We're not supposed to take chapter 2 and rip it out and say, okay, well, that's everything. No, it leaves a hole between 1, 3, and 4. They're all a unit. They're all tied together. So, for instance, in chapter 1, verse 30, God says to, or he gives to every beast and every bird and every creepy crawly creature on the earth, every green plant for food. Which is, like I mentioned before, kind of interesting because he didn't give the humans every green plant for food. He gave them the trees, fruit of the trees. But he gives to the animals every green plant for food. Then you look at chapter 3, verse 14, and God gives dust for food to the, and I'm going to use a phrase here, to the modified from its created perfection serpent. Let me say that again. So God gives dust instead of every green plant for food to the modified from its created perfection serpent. Every green plant for food was given to those creatures that were perfect. Dust is given to the creature that has been changed. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. Cursed are you above all other perfectly created animals. Chapter 2, verse 17. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up to chapter 2:17. Says, the man, in specific, Adam, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall die. And connected to that thematically is verse 9 that says, the Yahweh God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. So the man is forbidden to eat from one tree among every tree that was made to spring up, that's pretty to the eyes and good for the tummy. In chapter 3, 17 and 18, the man will struggle to garden. So he's taken out of the garden, and he's going to struggle to garden because thorns and thistles shall be brought forth for you. And instead of eating every tree that is pretty and good for the tummy, he now eats what the animals eat, the plants of the field. In chapter 1, verse 28, the woman was told to multiply, be fruitful and multiply. But in 3:16, the punishment for the crime is that her multiplication, well, it doesn't stop. I mean, God has the command, be fruitful and multiply. He never rescinds that command. He never goes back on it. He never changes it. He's actually going to restate it after the flood. We are supposed to, as God's representatives on the planet, be fruitful and multiply. But the punishment for the crime is that your multiplication is now going to be a struggle. It's going to be painful. It's going to be unpleasant. In chapter 2, verses 21 through 24, that's where God built the woman. This is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha because she was taken out of Ish. The man left his father and mother, or therefore, this is the theological outcome of it. A man shall leave his father and mother, hold fast to his wife, they shall become one flesh. They are partners. They are a unit. They are united. She is from him, and she is so named that she is part of him, and he is obviously part of her. His rib has become her. But in 3:16, what do we read? Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, and he shall rule over you. So all of a sudden, that side-by-side partnership gets hit on its side. It gets turned over. It gets pushed down. And now the man and the woman struggle for this new thing called dominance, called rule. They never ruled over each other. They never even thought about it before. But now there's a struggle of will. No longer united in purpose, now struggling against each other. So punishments fitting the crime. These things are connected. These phrases, these ideas are connected between chapters 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. All right, that's probably enough for this particular time. I'm going to call this a wrap, and I will see you next time, and we'll continue on chapter 3 and finish up some pretty good stuff. So till next time, go in peace and serve the Lord.